This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan, and we are coming to you on January 5th. Brendan, it is a Friday. Of course, welcome into the Friday edition of the CHGO Cubs Podcast. Last week, Brendan, we were live. We are not live this week, so we cannot see your live chats.
Like last week, also no news. Zero news. No moves. We've not made a move in, 13 months, I think. So here we are, yet again, doing nothing.
You're not excited by minor league depth catching and like...
I was, actually, but you want me to talk about
them. On Flyers? No,
do it for you. Colton Brewer is kind of interesting. You want to do a 20-minute segment on Colton Brewer?
So I know you dig into this stuff, but do you
I got nothing else to do.
No, I got nothing else to do. Like he's interesting. Like this might dude, really?
He kind of is. What do you want me to tell you? He's got interesting stuff. I'm not like putting money on him. He's got an interesting breaking pitch. You want to talk about it or no?
I think no, not to start the show. Listen, I don't care how long it takes the Cubs to make a major move. We are not headlining a show with. I don't even remember.
Now I want to do it.
No offense to him personally.
Colton Brewer is his name.
Yeah, no.
Future Cubs closer, perhaps.
What I do, we should go back over time since you and I have been doing podcasts together, and try and track how often you were I don't want to say right or wrong, but go after a signing or going into a season. I like this guy. I think this guy's interesting, because there's definitely ones that you nailed early on. I think ALLCITY, even recently when he started doing different stuff, you're texting me right away. There's definitely certain things where you are
Julius Chassin. Remember that one?
Yes, I do. But then, I'm sure there's others where it's oh, this guy's interesting. His curveball could really be something, and then he gets DFA'd after 2 months.
That's not true.
Ever.
Give me one example where this happened.
Well, no, I'd have to go back and do the research.
Because it's not obvious. Because off the top of your head, there's nothing there. Because I am right 100% of the time. That's why. I'll give you a name, though. Tommy Nance. I was excited about Tommy Nance. He fell off the face of the earth.
Well, but does that one count? He was cheating.
He was cheating, so no. So I've been exonerated. Fooled. I was fooled.
The cheating version was really good.
He was one of the best. He had 3,300 RPMs on that curve. Oh, man.
How are you supposed to know? I don't think that's a ding on you.
No.
You were evaluating on what you had to evaluate on.
I mean, we can talk about this. I was right about Craig Kimbrell. You threw him in the trash in 2020.
That's true.
Right about that. I was right about you, Darvish, literally 2 weeks before he went off.
Fair.
I wrote a blog about it. I'm the smartest person in the world. What do you want me to tell you?
Right. All right. Yeah. Well, I'll let the audience. Someone will find a bad take.
I should run the team.
Wrong about something, I'm sure.
I should have run the team.
If you did, we might root for a team that's made a major league transaction in the last 7 months.
And we might be filing for bankruptcy too, given the guys I wanted to sign in years past as well. So
yeah. With that, we have another episode where the Cubs have not added a player to their major league roster on a major league contract. The rumors persist, and we are going to try to have a conversation that we have not had 10 times in the last 3 months. We're going to do our best, folks, but that's where it is, Brendan. I mean, I saw a blog even on Fangraphs commenting on what are the Cubs doing? Is it okay that they're not doing anything? Will they do something? It's gotten to the point that you have people across the industry making comments,
wondering what's going on.
What are they doing? And the tone of the Fangraphs article, I think, was a lot of what we've continued to say and other people have continued to say, that the path to a good team and a good roster and a team that competes at the top level of this NL Central is there. And it's fine. They missed on certain things, but at the end of the day, you have a pretty big market team that is just silent, radio silent, basically, for the entirety of this offseason. And it's catching people a little off guard, I think.
But the strategy in that Fangraphs article, it makes sense. At this point, we know what Jed's doing. He's waiting out the market. You got Boris running the show. Imanaga will be expired. His posting will be expired 1 week from Thursday, so 6 days from now. You can see what's going on. A lot of the big spenders are done spending. The Reds even have announced they're probably done making significant moves. So if you look across the market, given the CB tax payrolls going into 2024, Yankees at 280, they're already above the second tier. The Mets at 306, already above as well. Actually, the Yankees are above the third tier. I'm sorry. Then you look at the Phillies, they're at 253. The Braves are at 265. They're done. Dodgers, who knows, but they're almost around 300. Really the only teams that might make sense for some of these Cody Bellinger type moves is San Francisco, maybe at 190. But do they want to add a center fielder or first baseman, given they already have those slots filled with their new center fielder, as well as their roster from last year? May not make sense. The Blue Jays, their payroll's at 234. Yeah. They're already above the first tier of the luxury tax. So it does appear
it's always a mystery team, but
sure. But it does appear if the asking price for Cody is 240, which is what we heard perhaps from the national beat, and it ends up being around 160 to 180, you can see the Cubs are likely the best suitor versus the other teams, given their payroll standing.
I think certain things have been true this entire time about Bellinger. One was that if the market was really there for him and someone was willing to go crazy, let's say the Padres aren't trading Juan Soto, so the Yankees are still in, the Blue Jays don't make some of those other moves, so they're still in, and it's 8 or 9 years, some extreme number. The one thing we knew all along wasn't going to be the Cubs. They were not going to meet anyone at the peak of his potential market. The other thing that I think we've known is true the entire time, like the market falls to them. That's what they want. That's what they're waiting for. And I think even if there was other suitors, if it's fallen to a certain point, they're not going to lose out on it. They're willing to play in a cratered market and win in a lesser form than what Cody was expecting, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, but I mean, from our perspective, it's unsettling to make all these moves in 6 weeks.
Sure. Yeah.
It hasn't been done before. We talked about it exhaustively the past few weeks, but it's weird contrasting that with the trades we had hoped would happen. So it's odd that those trades, which you would imagine would be for arbitration controlled guys, maybe even pre-arb guys, they're not there. So even if you sign Bellinger, you sign Hoskins, or you sign, a starting pitcher, you would think that an arbitration or team control guy wouldn't affect that pursuit.
Yeah.
So that's where it's I understand the process, but at the same time, I'm a little uneasy given there's nothing whatsoever. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Be interesting. I do think at the very least on one, and the connection to the Cubs has not been consistent or even at times particularly strong, but the Cubs are amongst the teams mentioned sometimes in the Shota Imanaga market. And at the very least on that, there's a deadline. So we know by Thursday the 11th, the posting period expires. The 45 days are up. He has got to have made a decision or the posting is over and he stays in the MPB. That's it. That's just what
maybe that happens,
You'd have to think that there's no interest though. It's a lot of money that you're potentially, even on the lower end of those projections, that's a lot of money for him to ultimately decline. And you would assume that market doesn't get stronger if he's a year older,
Well, no, but a lot of money is going to be coming off the books for a lot of teams next year. So teams might be resetting their luxury tax.
I don't know, man. That feels like a gamble for a 30-year-old pitcher.
The Giants, for example, could be resetting their tax.
Yeah,
it could happen.
I suppose.
The Braves,
but at the very least, that market is done in less than a week. So you will have an answer whether that's the Cubs or not. I know that we talked about him to a lesser extent in an episode that you and I did where we highlighted Yamamoto primarily, hoping that the Cubs would be looking at that. They obviously did not. So we didn't spend too much time on Imanaga, but really where I want to center this conversation, at least to sort of guide us, and of course these comments were a couple days ago now, but Brendan and I have not been on the air, and that was from pitching coach Tommy Hottovy on 670 The Score. And he was talking about, he was pretty candid, Brendan, in like what he wanted as a pitching coach, which file it under the category of weird to say if it's not something they're going to do, which I think we've had endless examples of people in this organization saying stuff that then like doesn't come to fruition or they don't really follow through on. And you kind of wonder why they said that. And of course, this is a casual interview on a radio, but this is your pitching coach being asked what his wish list was. And he said, quote, "Solidifying the bullpen for me is always key. Always. You can't have enough starting pitching. Being able to add another starting pitcher gives you flexibility to do things with some of those kind of swing guys who you want to start, but also have weapons out of the bullpen. So that could solve some of those issues as well. So on the pitching side, for me, I feel like a starter and 2 bullpen pieces are probably kind of where my wish list would be." Again, just interesting stuff to say, because then if we get to Mesa and they have not done one or multiple of those things, then aren't we left with the conclusion, Brendan, that your pitching coach doesn't think that the staff is good enough, right?
You would think so, right? I mean, like, even one starting pitcher is probably not good enough. Like, he's even being probably cautious.
Yes, absolutely.
There.
Yeah.
So it is interesting.
Yeah, and I think even just the baseline concept is a lot of what we have said. We've talked about this, that you need to replace Stroman's ability at a minimum to deliver starts and eat innings. And of course, I know he dealt with injuries during his time with the Cubs. Like he was not always perfectly healthy, but throughout his career, he's been a rather safe bet, especially relative to the rest of the league, to make 30-ish starts, 25-ish starts, get towards that 180, 200 inning type thing. Like, he's a safer bet than most to hit some of those milestones or at least get close to them. So you need to replace that, because that allows you more flexibility with guys like Jordan Wicks or Javier Assad or Hayden Wisniewski, or when you do decide to bring up Cade Horton or Ben Brown, you're not putting everybody in a box of, well, they better be able to start every 5th day and eat 6 or 7 innings. You don't need everyone to do that if you increase the depth. So obviously I agree with Tommy Hottovy there. We've been preaching it. He doesn't go as far as we do, which I think you just said, which is you need like a top of the rotation guy, not just another starter. Like, you need a good starter, if not a really good starter.
Like, you can go out and sign Blake Snell if you want to take that risk.
Yeah.
I know you're not into it. I'm not particularly into it.
We've dealt with too many people over the years in this organization that walk more guys than we'd be comfortable with. I don't like it. I'm over it.
Jordan Montgomery. I don't know if you're into him.
That's one. It's a price thing. I mean, of course it is on everybody, but I think
so. The projection for him is 6 years, 150. So you have Snell projected 7 years, 200 by MLB Trade Rumors, and then for Montgomery is 6 years, 150. For Imanaga is 5 years, 85.
And these are how old is Jordan Montgomery? Because
31.
Like Blake Snell's 31. Imanaga
Montgomery's 31.
Okay.
Yeah, Imanaga's 30. Stroman, I believe, is 33. He's
right.
He's gonna be 34 during the season. So, he's getting up there. You got to advance Horton, which is likely 0.1% chance of happening given the innings limit, or you take a risk on Snell, or you bring back Stroman and hope you get some guys coming up through the system and progressing currently in the rotation, like Assad, like Wisniewski in the bullpen, making those next steps. And you have a soft push for 24, waiting to trampoline off 24 and 25, with then Horton actually being established, with Jordan Wicks being your bona fide middle of the order rotation guy. That actually might be what they end up doing. Unfortunately, perhaps.
Yeah. I think the bullpen end of Hottovy's ask is a lot easier to solve. I mean, I think we saw last year as the bullpen broke down, you really just needed that depth, and it did not require several lights out relievers or the absolute upper echelon of bullpen pitchers. You really just needed a couple more guys you could trust to get 3 outs every now and again at a solid clip. And they just didn't have it. They had a bunch of untested rookies and guys who had not performed at that level and in those leverage spots before, and it bit them. So I think like that's an easy fix for them. Of course, they haven't put any effort into that so far in this offseason, unless you're counting. Did you say Colton Brewer?
Colton Brewer. Colton with an E. COLTE.
So unless that counts, which I don't think it does, I think that there's a lot of directions you can go to supplement a bullpen when the bar is pretty low for how they were going about things last year.
Justin Wilson is a free agent.
Speaking of guys who walk too many people, that's who I was thinking of when I said that.
I mean, yeah,
remember he came over in the trade and all of a sudden his walk rate like spiked.
Yeah, he was best friends with Anthony Rizzo. They got along great. Mound visits, laughing along with each other.
Yeah.
Shut up. Yeah. Isaac Paredes and Jamer Candelario. Never forget.
Yeah. So
Good
anyway,
times.
it's an interesting discussion. I think, I'm unnerved by these like 6 to 7 year projections for guys that are 31 years old. Like we want the Cubs to spend money, but that is veering pretty far from like Jed's intelligent spending, I think, line. But again, like there's only so many angles to address this. I know for a while it was, well, what if they make a trade with the Rays for Tyler Glasnow? Somebody else did it. There's been these rumors of the Guardians and Shane Bieber, but we don't really have any movement on that, it wouldn't appear. And other than, I think, people like us, other podcasts, blogs, things like that, kind of continuing to churn that thought, I don't know that there's any real substance to it. Is there? Like, unless it came to pass.
I mean, it sounds
it's not like the beat writers are updating daily that like they're talking and something is imminent. Like, I think we're the ones keeping this alive.
Well, I think it's the Imanaga market too. Like if you have $120 million pitcher still in the market and he's going to sign in like a week, why would you not approach those negotiations? And of course, by doing that, you're not going to approach the trade market until that's settled.
Yeah.
So first off, this offseason sucks. They going forward, the MLB needs to figure this out, because whether it's deadlines,
deadline or a timeline,
dude, it's good for no one. Yeah. So if you think about like
free agency period that comes and goes.
Yeah. And I don't know what the solution is, but you're not hyping up the game. You're having guys, historical players, Hall of Famers, sign in the past during spring training. Bryce Harper signed with Philadelphia like 3-4 years ago during spring training. Boris will keep this going all the way into February, even early March if they need to. That's good for no one. We're talking on the show nonstop about absolutely nothing. No one wants to listen to this team. How is that good for the sport? So this is ridiculous. You're going to have Ohtani's market hold things up, and then it was...
It didn't, did it?
I mean, for a week, the winter meetings, there was like nothing there.
Opened, and it seemed like there was only a couple teams that really thought they were even in that process at the end. So
there was nothing going on during the winter meetings.
It was holding up the Dodgers from making other moves.
And then it was Glasnow.
Yeah.
I mean, there were moves after that. Eduardo Rodriguez signed, but like the big guys coming off the board.
Imanaga. Yeah, the Diamondbacks were waiting to find out where Ohtani was going.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know what their pitch was.
They were holding out hope.
Listen,
we might get him. Yeah.
Those Paradise Valley mansions, they appeal to a lot of different people.
Yeah, he loves Chase Field. I heard that in an interview.
I'm sure he does.
It's not good, but we at this point, this is where it is. That's not changing in this offseason. We just have to hope that Jed's strategy is ultimately one that he can pull off. I think at this
how
point,
stupid can baseball be, though? Like, you're trying to bring in new fans, and for 5 months, you have a dead weight period.
Nothing. Yeah.
Look at the NBA. The first week, and the NFL, first week, all the moves are made. That's it. Then you have, for the NFL, you have, OTAs, you got voluntary camps, whatever the hell they call all this stuff. For NBA, you got the Vegas Summer League on TV like 3 weeks after it, and the draft and all that stuff. Baseball has their draft during the season, during the All-Star break. And then you have a 5-month dead weight period of absolutely nothing.
You weren't watching Christopher Morel in the Dominican Winter League?
I watch all the AFL games too. I am not the person that baseball should be catering to.
Fair.
I'm an idiot. I'm going to watch the highlights on YouTube after this when we're done talking. But this is insane. How can you, as a fan who wants to get interested in the sport, be excited about nothing? There's zero induction of reward during the offseason.
Yeah.
So they got to figure this out, man. Like the next, I don't know how this stuff gets resolved or whatever, but like Theo, I know Theo listens to our podcast.
Yeah.
Figure it out, dude. Figure it out. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. So, we'll continue this after the first ad break, but even just finishing on those Hottovy thoughts, something that jumps out like of that, obviously, I think because what he said fits so well with what everyone has sort of obviously seen this team needs, and the fact that he's so willingly saying that's one of those instances, like, when you're in this period, people are asking, like, are they going to do anything? Are they really not going to do anything? They're just going to roll with young guys and not spend any money, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know a lot of people don't like to hear it as this process is going on, but they will. Like, they know. They've all said these things. And at some point, you have to convince the players to come. You have to get the trades agreed to, whatever. But, like, I guess what I'm saying, Brendan, is your pitching coach isn't going on the radio identifying needs that everyone in the world knows the Cubs need. If the vibe in the organization is like, yeah, we're not spending any money, like, you better make it work with Javier Assad.
We'll see.
Hayden Wisniewski. I just don't. Well, then we'd have a bigger problem, because then the people in the organization are not on the same page, man. Like, that's just this.
It's happened before.
It's not an outlandish wish list from Tommy Hottovy. It just feels like a weird thing for a coach to go and say, thinking that,
dude, I'm done with the media stuff. We had Jed Hoyer 3 years ago saying he's very confident that Rizzo will be extended.
Yeah, we're talking about a coach, though. That's what I'm saying.
We're talking about coaches, players, and executives all getting in front of a mic, talking about practice. But this is just media speak. Sometimes stuff comes in the brain. You just say whatever the hell you want to say.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean, though.
Jed says we need to add power. What power did we add?
No, I know, but I think there's a difference between the person in charge and one of the coaches on the team. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I guess that would just be very strange, would it not? Like, for him to say that, and then 2 months from now we go, remember when Hottovy said they needed another starting pitcher and they didn't get one? Wasn't that
define
weird?
Starting pitcher. They go out and get, like, what, Marcus Stroman coming back? Your guy, Marcus Stroman?
My guy.
Your guy. You love Marcus Stroman.
I'm not. Look, if the decision is like, are we signing guys into their mid or late 30s, when you're looking at some of the numbers and things are comparable and things like that, like, if they brought back Stroman on a short deal, it doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. When we entered this offseason, I just had more hope that we would be going beyond replacing Bellinger and Stroman's loss and making the team better. And as this offseason has gone along, we've worked ourselves back into, well, what if they just brought them back exactly and did little else or something else? I don't know.
Their expected record was 91 wins. They just got unlucky last year, Corey. That's what it was. They got unlucky last year. So if you bring it back, they're going to make the playoffs 100%. That's what's going to happen. I don't know why. Like, I started the show off optimistic, positive.
Not really.
And you kind of, more than you. You have a way of putting me into a horrible mood. You
by
do.
doing what?
Just by
Talking
existing.
about the team.
Yeah. This
Like,
happens all the time.
Get out of
Even
here. What did
texting,
I
I'm
do?
in a good mood. I'm enjoying my evening. And then all of a sudden, I'm bashing the front office 20 minutes later. I don't want to bash the front office. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It could all work out,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a lot of moves to be made.
If you were rank them for me. You're the pitching guy. So,
Okay.
and there may be options beyond this. We'll throw Shane Bieber in there just because he's been a name that's come up a decent amount. So if I gave you, it was at 5 people.
Yeah.
If I gave you Stroman, Imanaga, Snell, Montgomery, trade for Shane Bieber. And obviously their contracts are different. Things are not equal. But assuming based on projections, Stroman's getting a shorter one.
Yeah.
You know, whoever's getting more money. Bieber obviously costs you player capital. Rank them 1 to 5 in terms of your preference. And you can put them in tiers if anything belongs in a different tier.
Number 1, Imanaga. Number 2, Stroman.
Okay, no, I'll ask you after.
Okay. We got to do the ad break here too, by the way.
Yeah,
We're getting way ahead of this. So let's rank them. We'll do the ad break. We'll come back. Imanaga, number 1. Stroman, number 2. Bieber, number 3. 4. Montgomery. 5. Snell.
Okay. So just tell me why Imanaga 1, Snell 5. Tell me why, for to phrase it for anyone listening, right? I feel like just a good framing of the question. Tell me why your preference would be a guy who's never pitched in Major League Baseball before versus a guy that literally just won the Cy Young. And I'm not framing it that way, but I think in layman's terms, explain that.
I get it. So in layman's terms, baseball now versus 8 years ago in projecting pitchers has a higher degree of confidence. So as a result, even though Imanaga is not played in the US, you can at least infer with a better understanding and a better degree of confidence how his stuff will play in Major League Baseball. Now, when you contrast his profile versus what Snell has done, I like Imanaga at the $100 million or so discount because I am pretty confident his fastball should play up. His fastball has a very low release point with 20 inches of induced vertical break. That would be, I don't know, around, if it translates like over the 80th percentile for guys with carry on four-seam fastballs. That plays up even more because of that low release point. That's what makes Stroman so good because of that low release point as well. So I know Imanaga, $100 million cheaper with a four-seam fastball, his foundation, that should translate over. Now he has a sweeper and a splitter. I know one of those two pitches has a good chance of being successful. Compare that to Blake Snell. The principal reason why Blake Snell is ranked lower is because of the volatility over his entire career. 2018, great year, won the Cy Young, 31 starts, followed up 2018 and 2019 with just 23 starts and a 4.3 ERA. COVID hit 2020, 2021 comes back. Again, only 27 starts, 4.2 ERA. Fast forward, 2022, only 24 starts, a 3.4 ERA, better still. And then last season, finally hits 32 starts again, over 30 starts for the first time in 5 seasons and wins the Cy Young. I need to know if I'm going to dish out $200 million that my return on the investment is going to yield confident, projectable value. I can't say, given the up and down with Snell, that that's likely going to happen. Simultaneously, we know Jed Hoyer doesn't operate like that. Dansby Swanson's contract, 7 years for 177, is because the floor is high with the defensive base.
Yeah.
So with similar thinking, the floor is high, you would imagine, with Imanaga, relative to his contract of like 5 years, 85, maybe over 20 million annual average value because of the four-seam fastball. So it's pretty easy for me. It's about cost and it's about projecting value. If contract was not an issue, I would pick Blake Snell, the whiffs and everything.
Yeah.
We're factoring in literally 2 times the amount in a contract.
Yeah. And we haven't heard this at all, but let's would any of those guys on their projected contract, including Blake Snell, would you be like pissed if they did that, or just like, I'm concerned about the long-term proposition here?
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking if any of these guys are like, no, at these terms, this is bad. This sets them back. This is going to be looked at as a bad deal. Don't do this.
I don't know. I mean, Montgomery is kind of the person you're talking about there, right? Because you have Stroman, 34, likely going to get a short-term contract. So I'm fine with bringing back Stroman. Like I said this with Jared a couple of weeks ago before the holiday. Stroman probably might fall back into the Cubs' hand, where you can structure a contract where the AAV is maybe 20 million, even lower perhaps, and you give more money up front. You front load that contract, and you have like a player option for 2025, and you can opt out and try it again. That might be what Stroman does. Montgomery's an interesting case. If it's 6 years, 150, it doesn't quite sit well with me. He does have a 3-year track record of consistent innings, talking about 30 starts, 21, 32, 22, and then 32 last season, the playoff pedigree to go with that. He's one of those guys where if the command isn't perfect, because he doesn't get whiffs, I mean, we're talking like a league average whiff rate, I worry how that ages. And compared to Stroman and past pitchers, he doesn't quite have those like ultra unique pitch types.
Yeah.
For example, Stroman, very low release point, has the most seam shifted wake on his 2-seam fastball. Those are outlier traits. With Montgomery,
I still need it. We got to talk to the folks at CHGO. I obviously this is harder because we're remote. I still need it. I like on Pee Wee's Playhouse, where it's like, you know, the stuff explodes when you say seam shifted wake. He said the secret word.
I don't say it that often. I don't
yeah,
say
that's why it's special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like confetti would have burst out of the...
I actually hate even saying that. That's such a stupid name. They should have named it something else. Seam shifted wake is a weird way of describing it.
When you discover a thing, do you get to... Is it like science? Like if you come up with a concept, you get to name it?
Yeah. That's actually the most fun part.
Like a star or a disease or something, you get to pick the name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about some names off air that I would pick. But seam shifted wake is not a good name.
He leads the league in Brendan Miller's over average.
That's a good one. I like that one. Brendan Miller's over average.
All right,
BMO.
We do have to hit our... So what I was going to finish... We do have to hit our first ad break. Let's hit our first ad break. We'll come back and we'll continue talking about the pitchers because we're not really done and I don't want to do the ad break in 3 hours. So.
All right, Corey. Let's talk about ComEd. It's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we all can get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it.
That is right, Brendan. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence toward an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do?
Business owners should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Yes, indeed, Brendan. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Okay, Corey, let's talk about Circa Sportsbook. Circa Sportsbook games will strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other books, which may use -115 or -120 splits. That means you get the better chances to win more money. Circa Sports also keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to those other books. Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. So if you're a great gambler, well, they're not going to limit you. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit hot winning players. So we encourage bettors To download and explore all sports betting apps available and compare the lines from each sportsbook yourself. There's also real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. And if you or somebody you know may have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
All right, Brendan, if you are watching us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, hit that like.
We are not live, by the way.
CHGO Sports on YouTube. We are not live. Not live, Barb. I know you've asked a million times by now. We're not. We apologize. But back to the starting pitcher discussion, I think finishing on Montgomery, I think like the real key is, I think he's obviously a good pitcher, would be
he's
solid
a great
addition.
Pitcher. Yeah.
But I think the concern is how much are you paying for him taking the Rangers to a World Series? That's where I think the concern comes in, because I think when you look at some of the projections and you look at his like history and what he's putting up, I don't know. I'm interested, but you have to pay a premium because sometimes people, teams, agents, obviously for sure, they're going to sell it as go look at what he just did in the playoffs. You want a guy that can do this in the playoffs. He's got ice in his veins. Like they're big dogs. DeGrom got hurt. Scherzer was hurt. He didn't pitch that well, but you know who anchored them? Jordan Montgomery. I just, put me in if he's CAA, let me do the ad pitch for him. But you don't want, if you're Jed Hoyer, Jed's like, well, I'm not paying for that. Great. Congratulations. But I'm not paying you a premium for it. I'm going to pay you for, these past years and projections and stuff like that. So I'm interested, but I think if, it's similar to other things, like if that hits the higher end of the market, it's just not one they're going to play in. It's unfortunate, like, because we've talked about this, like, I wish they had a $400 million payroll every year. They just spent crazily. They're over the luxury tax every time. We have to talk about things this way because this is how the team is operating. Look at them. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, if it's the top end of this market, the Cubs are going to be out. We can't even consider it. But like, prove me wrong. Yeah, and I think everybody knows that. So it's like unfortunate, but it's like, that's how we have to talk about these things. That's why we were so sure of the Bellinger situation when it first started. It was like the Yankees go crazy and are like, here's 10 years. Like they're never touching that. They're not doing that.
Listen,
it's not even worth talking about whether it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Listen, I will take Montgomery. I don't ever want to frame these conversations as I don't like that. Like Montgomery is a innings eater.
Absolutely.
He's got a diverse repertoire. It just creates average across the board. I'm operating as if Jed Hoyer is making these moves. I have this like computer simulation.
And you have to think of future years.
You have to.
So when you're talking about a 6 or 7 year deal for a pitcher, you have to consider, like, would this stop Jed from doing something else? And right now, the answer seems to be yes on some of these. Yes, it would.
I think about if we sign this pitcher, who are we not signing 3 years from now? Yeah. That's the way.
And it should not be that way. It's unacceptable for the Cubs to think that way. But as I've said before on the rest of this offseason, they can prove us wrong on any of these things. They can prove us wrong on acting like the big market that they are, pulling off a big trade, being willing to commit over $200 million or these long-term deals, but they got to do it. Until then, like, people are not wrong for accusing them of otherwise because they don't do these things. They're not acting that way. So the one thing I did want to finish, though, on the starting pitching thing is it would be so much fun because Snell is a unique pitcher in that he has generated some of the most divisive conversation, I think, in the game around his usage and the blending of metrics around him to that usage. Famously taken out early in the 2020 World Series.
The spring training World Series.
Absolutely. So, like, that would be a lot of fun to watch Cubs Twitter do that, for us to do that. The conversation, if Craig Counsell took Blake Snell out after the second time through the order, which is famously, his numbers do get worse in a lot of these seasons. I'm not looking at his full career, but I think even last year, like third time through the order, the numbers balloon. The walk rate balloons up, K rate goes down, everything gets worse. Like Craig Counsell takes him out, and then, I don't know, pick whichever reliever you want. Mark Leiter Jr. blows the game. Like that post game with Luke and Ryan and lit. So it would be so much fun. The chat would be a mess. Luke for sure is taking the position of, you got to let him finish the game. You got to let him go through the order the third time.
And then Ryan calls in. He's like, you know what? I agree with Craig Counsell here. Cody, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Right.
I could see it.
It just would be a lot of fun. So I'm not, I want the Cubs to win.
You
That's
want
my primary
chaos.
concern.
You want chaos secondary to them winning.
I'm just thinking, you know what? There's not a lot that's exciting in terms of what the debates and perception could be about like Jordan Montgomery. But like Blake Snell would provide some entertainment if you're looking for that. Because it would be very fun to, I just think it would be fun to watch all that. That's all.
You look at these payrolls right now. It's like, it is crazy how little the Cubs have spent over the years. Like they've only paid, I think, almost 14.4 million in luxury tax surcharges since 2016. That's like insane. And then you look at the committed payroll right now as it stands. Yankees, Blue Jays, by the way, I'm counting on my fingers for you, Michigan man. Yankees, Toronto, Mets, Phillies, Braves, Cardinals, Dodgers, Giants, Rangers, Astros, Padres. I lost track. That's 11 teams who have more money committed next year than the Cubs, right? And you look at the Rangers, just won the World Series, already over the luxury tax again. Yankees already above the third tier, going out and making moves, even despite being over the third tier for, Shohei, going out and trying to get Yamamoto as well. Mets are doing whatever the hell they want to do. Phillies, they poured in tons of money for Trey Turner and Bryce Harper over the years. The Braves are doing what we always hoped the Cubs would do. Develop guys, lock them up, supplement in free agency, and make creative trades.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we were hoping would be the outcome.
Well, I think and what everybody wants to be doing. I think even the Dodgers, I think, would prefer.
And the Dodgers do the same thing to a softer degree.
I don't think we've seen someone do it this successfully as the Braves in a minute. Maybe the Astros. And the Astros did a really good job of keeping that core and going back to the World Series.
But you look at the Astros. Why are the Astros able to do this? They have they were the first organization to be cutting edge and innovative. They hire the best analysts. They hire the best scouts. They take risk hiring those younger guys and promoting them through the system.
They have the best cheating system.
The best.
Yeah.
They have the best trash can system, the best videographers. They have.
If you're going to do it, be the best at it.
Be the best at it. But it goes to the point too. If
you don't want to get found out you were cheating and you're like bad at it.
No. I mean, you would know. Like I said, Michigan man over here. You want to be the best at it. But if you look at even like the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers, their farm system has been among the top over the past decade. Freddie Freeman, outside the organization, acquisition, Mookie Betts, trade, extend, Shohei, Ohtani, now, of course. And you supplement that through Chris Taylor's and Max Muncy's and the pitching pipeline that they've had. And that's worked out. The Cubs, I'm still waiting for those trades. Be creative on those trades, trade, extend, et cetera, and we just haven't done it yet for some reason.
Well, and that goes into that bucket of like, there's plenty of time to prove everybody wrong. But you are, only running out of runway as long as players come off the board. Otherwise, you're not really running out of runway. There's plenty of talent left and time to go. But it would be nice to sort of start making those moves, building the team, and having the confidence that that's
Well, it's a conversation.
Because I think until they spend a single dollar on the major league roster for 2024, people are going to be a little uneasy about it.
Well, it's a conversation. It's a conversation to have whether my inclination would be that we don't look at 2024 the same way Jed Hoyer does. Right now, the team's 78, 80 wins. We talked about this last week. You have to at least jump 10 wins to 90 territory. If that doesn't happen, why go over the luxury tax? Why make these trades for 2024? Why sign Stroman if he's only going to be here for 1 or 2 years? Just have a soft push. Do what you did in 23 and just reevaluate after next year if the market doesn't fall your way.
Well, I mean, again, for clarity, Brendan is thinking as Jed Hoyer, not as Brendan Miller.
Listen, I would have fired Jed Hoyer last year at my worst.
Okay, here we go.
At my worst, when I've had four glasses. Yeah. When I've had 4 glasses.
After that series in Atlanta, I think everybody was ready. I would have fired anyone and everybody.
Yeah. Listen, by the way, I like Jed Hoyer. I like the front office. I like the guys they have right now. I just want to see some weird stuff going on. I want to see some stuff we never expected. That's all. That's all I want to see. I think it's a fair ask.
I do think that's fair.
Okay. Let me do this ad break here. We'll come back. We'll finish up this conversation.
Okie dokie.
All right, Corey. New Year's resolution for a lot of people: get healthy, exercise. Midtown's 4 Chicagoland locations: Palatine.
No way did you do that again.
It's the way that, first off, the text is so small on my computer screen. I need to get glasses here. I just read whatever it sounds like in my mind. Palatine.
But you yelled at anyway.
What? You can finish what you want. Want to say.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh man, how do you say this one? Bannockburn? Is it Bannockburn?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm sorry to all of our Bannockburn listeners. Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown, and Lincoln Park. Those are your 4 Chicagoland locations. Midtown is the nicest fitness club I've seen. I want to go in there. I see Carm playing basketball with Braggs in those Midtown locations. I want to check it out when I get back out to Chicago. There's something to do there for the entire family. So childcare is also included with family memberships. Also, amazing outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs, a collection of boutique fitness studios with more than 100 classes per week included in the membership. This isn't gym quality. The spaces are high-end boutique quality. There's also yoga, boxing, spin and cycling, and group exercise classes. The best tennis course and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor, outdoor tennis, pickleball, and paddle tennis. USTA professional quality all the way. Head over to midtown.com/CHGO to find out more and to tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you. Second break here from FOCO. Get fitted out in the best sports gear around. Take your FOCO gear, go to Midtown. They have hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. It's baseball season coming up here. We're about 6 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Think about that. 6 weeks away. So get ready for spring training with Aloha shirts, straw hats. Protect yourself from the Arizona sun. I've been sunburned like crazy in Arizona. I got the worst sunburn in my life at Sloan Park 10 years ago when it first opened. Get those straw hats. They have polos, bags as well, everything you need for a game. They've given us set decorations. You've seen the Hayden Wisniewski bobblehead, for example. Go show them some love. Check out foco.com or click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off.
All right, Brendan. I will address... You made a number of comments, and I think I'll save my full rebuttal for next week, or I'll just pretend the topic didn't come up at all. But you made a couple of mentions of it. Yes, Brendan, I did attend the University of Michigan, and on Monday night, the University of Michigan will be playing for a national title. So I will have to take a brief break this weekend from jabbering with you about the Chicago Cubs because I am going to fly to Houston and come back with a national title. So I'll talk to you
when they
next
find
Friday.
out that they cheat. Do they take away the national championship? Is that a thing, or do they just put an asterisk
it's above my pay grade?
Yeah.
Listen.
I don't know what to tell you.
That was cute.
What?
We said listen at the same time.
I didn't hear that.
Anyway.
I'm happy for you. Congratulations.
You've heard this from me before. We talked about this relative to like the Astros thing and the Cubs. I have said this many times. I am on record of saying this. If I found out the Brewers were doing it, it's a stain on the sport. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. They should be barred from the sport.
Well, they were.
Move them to Nashville, etc. If the Cubs had done it and won a World Series, I would have said, try harder, losers. Like, but not first, you're last. So
remind me, when they won their World Series, did they do that?
No, they did not.
No.
The 2016 Chicago Cubs, who did win the World Series, did not have to cheat to do it. They were just one of the best teams in the history of baseball.
During that World Series year, just to confirm.
Yeah, okay. If you can believe
just making
it.
Sure. Sometimes I can't.
So as we veer towards the end of this conversation, this inane, rambling conversation that we've had, I did think that, so that blog we were talking about on Fangraphs is titled "The Cubs Are Slumbering," and that's fine for now. If you wanted to go check it out on the Fangraphs blog. But I did think that the way it ended was a good summary of kind of what we've said and sort of keeps the perspective. The article looks through the roster, talks about the good things, some of the things could be better, et cetera, but it ends this way. Last year, the Cubs' payroll number against the competitive balance tax topped out at $227 million. So far, their commitments for 2024 bring that number to $185.9. That is some $51 million shy of the lowest CBT threshold. And let's be real, this is the old money team in one of the biggest cities on the continent. The Cubs ought to be spending at or above the tax. That likely gives them enough space to add not one, but two of the top remaining free agents without going over the tax threshold. Even if they do go over to sign a veteran first baseman or DH, the tax bill itself would be a pittance. And this is where I think the key line and summary comes in, but they actually have to make those moves. With the Dodgers and Yankees having done their shopping, the Braves tickling the second CBT surcharge threshold after the Chris Sale trade, and most of the other big teams either standing pat or resetting, the Cubs might actually be in a perfect position to slow play things, wait out some of the remaining pitchers, and let the market come to them.
That's what they're doing.
Ends by saying, so we're probably something like 5 weeks or 3 major signings, whichever comes first, from actually being in a position to ask what the heck the Cubs are up to. I just thought it was a good summary. It feels true and a good kind of perspective to have that I think we've all kind of talked through, but I thought that was well put. Like the moves are still there, but they have to actually do them. And if Imanaga goes elsewhere next week, again, Thursday is the final day of his 45-day posting. If, say, Rhys Hoskins signs somewhere else, the Guardians make clear that Shane Bieber is sticking around, Blake Snell goes back to San Diego, whatever it is, then of course that ratchets up the, hey, for real though, like what are the Cubs doing? There's nobody left. Until then, for as annoying as it is, we all just have to sit and wait and hope that, as we've all laid out, that $51 or so million that they have before even hitting the first tax threshold gets spent and makes this team better, perhaps just checking off what your pitching coach is telling people he wants on the radio.
I don't care about the timing. If they want to wait until
it's annoying.
It's annoying. I'm going to complain about it, but if they want to wait until the very last second, the last game of spring training before they do that, sure, wait, just get it done. That is a strategy, waiting out the market, getting the best value for these guys. If it doesn't work, then you can criticize and judge how the process worked out. In the current moment, it's just unsettling. That's what we've talked about for weeks. It's unsettling because of the high volume of additions that need to be made. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with it.
I'm also like hey, listen, if they can come away with smart moves, great. Like if they're going to operate like this, then great. Yeah, I would much rather they fall into the Dansby Swanson market rather than being saddled with the Bogarts thing. The problem though is it's like, one, is that how they should be acting? if you like a player, you want a player, you are in a better position than most to just say, hey, we're going to go get that
But
player.
if it works out, then you can say,
oh,
it was always right.
Man, like it's a dangerous game to play.
I know it is.
So that's the thing. I hope it works out. I hope at the end of this, everybody looks a little silly for, being on Jed's behind and wanting him to be faster if he ultimately goes, hey, look, I got a bunch of really good players on deals that are going to look like steals starting now until the end of these contracts. Great. Like, that's what I hope, if that's what they're doing. But I guess it's a separate question to ask. Do you think that validates the strategy? That's like the separate
if it
question.
Works, then yeah, it is.
But can you get away with it all of the time?
I don't know. This has never been done before. It's an extreme strategy. I don't hate it on paper. I hope it works out. What I do hate is they never signed Kevin Gausman 3 years ago. If you look at Gausman's contract, he has 3 years remaining at $22 million per year. You would take that. You would chop off your left arm for that contract right now. Marcus
I don't
Stroman
think I ever said you were wrong about Kevin Gausman, but it's like, if you go back through the backlogs of you and I talking, that must be the 500th time you've said that man's name, and he's never played for the Cubs. It's like a little crazy.
But like, those are the signings.
It's like Brian Rott. You've created your own like Jake Peavy territory with Kevin Gausman.
No, I have not. Like Kevin Gausman was a more obvious acquisition than Jake Peavy. He's on a whole different level than Jake Peavy.
I know, but I'm saying you talk a lot about someone who's never, and at this point probably will never play for the team you're on a podcast talking about.
That was the dumbest miss they've ever had. Even at the time, like, what are they doing here? Why would they not give that money for Kevin Gausman?
I thought Gausman would get or was that Jed? I don't remember when he signed somewhere.
That was 2020, before 2022.
Oh, okay, so Jed.
It was Jed.
It was Jed era. We're in our Jed era now.
We can email Jed. I can try. We have, I think, some contact information from Jed.
Mm-hmm. Good luck.
Do you think he would reply? Do you think he would reply to me?
No, I don't.
We've had Cubs executives apply to our network in the past, not ALLCITY, but in way back then, our like friend circle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, not really. But
we'll talk about this off air. You don't remember this?
That's fine. Not really.
Oh man. I don't want to like out the person.
No,
but, it definitely happened.
Do that.
Okay, let's not do that. But yeah, man, Kevin Gausman would have been nice. That's what I will say. But it does speak to a larger point. That's the larger point I was getting at there is because the way you looked at me right now was a little.
No, so sorry. I pulled up a list. I was trying to figure out, have we? So like some of this we were obviously too young for. But like I'm looking at the list of Cubs general managers. So I started
Hendry, Theo, and
like obviously like I was born in the Larry Himes era. That was followed by Ed Lynch for 6 years. He was the general manager when the Cubs won the wild card in 1998.
Yeah,
then Andy McPhail and Jim Hendry. So then around you have Andy McPhail for a couple years, and then Jim Hendry, and I think Andy McPhail goes above him when they win in 2003.
What was the first year for Hendry?
2002 as the general manager, July 2002 to August 2011, and then Randy Bush is the interim before Jed Hoyer and
Theo Epstein,
Thoyer,
and Jason McLeod. Yep.
I was just asking, I was thinking, thinking in eras. I feel like you and I sort of start being conscious in the Jim Hendry era. I don't really remember too much.
My first season following the Cubs like closely was 2002. That was it for me. I was like kind of too young for like the 98 to 2001
I feel like
eras.
Adult Brendan, I don't think you would have been able to handle like Mark Pryor.
I couldn't handle him when I was young either.
No, that's what I mean. No. I feel like now, like you would have been doing so much work to like figure him out, and then like he's getting run into and knocked out for the season. You know what I mean? Like I think that would have broken you, like as a person.
I vividly remember where I was when he fell over.
Yeah,
on the
I remember more when he took the liner again. What was it, like Brad Haupt? Colorado. I know it was Colorado.
It's Colorado.
Was it Brad Haupt?
I don't remember.
Let me look that up. while we're live
Yeah.
on the air. Everybody loves
Well,
watching
Marcus
people look things up.
Giles like ran into
No, I know
Mark Pryor.
that.
Yeah.
But I was playing baseball at a park listening to Pat on my portable AM radio, and like
course you
we're
were.
like in the middle of playing baseball in the park, and I'm like, I gotta go. I'm like listening to them describing Pryor being on the ground. I'm like, I can't play anymore. I gotta go home. I don't know what I needed to go do. I needed to go figure out what was happening.
Oh
I needed
my
to be out of there.
God.
Yeah.
I was doing something similar when Kosuke Fukudome hit that opening day 3-run tying home run. I was at baseball practice. I said I don't feel well. I had to leave for a second, and I went to go watch highlights. Was it Brad Hopp?
I'm trying to figure this out. It's yes.
Look at that.
Nice.
You know, you really got to wonder why you remember that. Like, you got to do some soul
Such a
searching.
sick thing to remember.
It's a really sick
I can't remember what I had for dinner 2 days ago, but who hit the liner
tell
that
me
knocked
about
Mark
it.
Pryor out? Oh, sure.
Tell
Brad
me
Hopp,
about it. My cognition,
Who else
like
would it be?
real talk here, my cognition has gone down dramatically in the last 5 years. Dramatically. I used to remember like baseball numbers for all the players like that. I can barely remember baseball numbers.
I have found that I can remember most things if you center it around what happened in the Cubs game that day. If you ask me what did you do on July 28th, be like, I have no idea. If you said, what did you do the day the Cubs, and I'm like making one up. I don't know.
Javi Baez's Mother's Day walk-off.
Well, that was Mother's Day. Of course, I remember that. But yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, what did you do the day that Justin Steele had the longest start of his career and beat the San Francisco Giants? I'm like, oh, sure. I remember exactly what I was doing that day.
Had a great cup of coffee.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I can run through the whole day.
lunch.
Thank you for grounding it in something that I can understand.
Oh my gosh. We are very sick like that. But hey, back to that point. Jim Hendry made some moves. Aramis Ramirez, Kenny Lofton, Randall Simon.
There's things to be learned. There's things to celebrate and things to be learned from, I think, every particular style. Certainly Jim Hendry's like over here on the risk timeline, and Jed Hoyer's off screen. He's over here somewhere. This is very risky. Let's get crazy, like living in Vegas. Jed Hoyer, you can't even see it. He's over here. He's
where's Theo? In the middle?
I think probably closer to Hendry, dude.
You think so?
He was pretty aggressive, like to end that tenure in Boston and stuff like that. Like he was wheeling and dealing, dude. Like to a fault.
What about Bryce Harper?
Huh?
Bryce Harper missed out on that.
Was that a risk?
Yeah, $325 million.
We're talking about
Harper.
Risk assessment.
Yeah. I think it was
Hendry was like, I'll sign whatever contract, I'll make whatever trade, like whatever, basically.
Milton Bradley, Matt Garza.
Yeah, he's got some real bad ones.
Garza turned out.
You want the horror stories of what happens when you're reckless in free agency. Like Jim Hendry's got some good ones for you. So
yeah, tell me about it. So where were you the day that Ryan Dempster was traded? I can tell you. I was thinking about this. Do you know the story of the Ryan Dempster trade? He was traded for Arodys Vizcaíno first. You know that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So that news broke. I was at the gym, working out, on TV.
Is this the one where Gordo says Baez is going in one of them?
No, that's Shelby Miller. Shelby Miller. Yeah.
Right, okay.
That was a late at night one.
Okay.
So it was Dempster for Arodys Vizcaíno. Okay. Dempster's taking a nap. He gets traded. He wakes up. He says, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that trade. And then Dempster, Dempster gets traded. That was a rumor, by the way. I don't know if that was ever verified. Dempster then gets traded back to the Rangers, and Christian Villanueva, third baseman, Kyle Hendricks,
some other
pitcher.
guy, yeah.
Kyle Hendricks,
Christian Villanueva and some other random guy.
Villanueva was the headliner too.
Yeah,
that was the main guy. Yep. Crazy times.
So when this trade is the trade
this is
deadline
2012.
2012.
Yeah, 2012. And I think, was that the same deadline that they acquired CJ Edwards?
But unless my math is wrong, do you want to know where honestly I was when that happened?
Huh.
I think I was in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic working for the Texas Rangers, and I think I was at the Hooters in Santo Domingo.
Okay. Was not expecting you to go there. Interesting.
There was only a certain number of they brought like American chains down to there. And I think
So
we
you
were
were
there
having,
because they
like-
had the TVs or something.
So it was like you and like Jose Leclerc next to you and everything.
No, he was at the complex, but yeah, it was like the folks working there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. I think that's where I was. So should I be taking more credit for Kyle Hendricks?
I've been trying to give you more credit for years. You just never take it. You're too humble.
Wow. I didn't
When it
really
comes to
think about that.
Yeah.
I could be making up anything.
I mean, you've done a lot. You're responsible for Corey Seager's.
I had AJ Preller's ear, and I convinced him, like, you don't like that Hendricks guy. He throws, look how slow he throws. What are you going to do with him? Throw him to Chicago. Come on.
That change up, it's overrated.
No.
Don't
AJ, that homer, that grand slam he gives up to James Loney, it was a fluke. Don't worry about it. He's great.
Don't worry about that. Oh man, that James Loney home run. No man, that was devastating. Oh,
remember
Jim
where
Hendry.
I was for that.
Rich Harden, the Rich Harden deal. That was one of my favorite deals.
Yeah, that's a very Brendan kind of move.
That was an unbelievable trade. You know it was too.
Yeah.
Rich Harden's splitter
I was jacked
at
up
the time.
About that. Yeah.
My God, man.
Yeah.
Dude, he was nasty too.
Yeah.
It was 5 innings or bust, but that splitter was disgusting.
Mm.
I think that trade was Josh Donaldson, Eric Patterson, Matt Merton, and I'm forgetting the four. Sean Gallagher. Sean Gallagher. I was kind of disappointed about that. Sean Gallagher was my guy. And I believe he's number 48. I got to look this up now. Sean Gallagher, Cubs.
Wow.
What number was he?
I didn't think we would get here on this show.
Well, we're here.
So.
We're here. 36.
This is what you're doing, Jed.
It was 36.
At any moment, Jed Hoyer, you have the ability to prevent us from talking about Sean Gallagher in the year 2024. At any minute, we will talk about anything.
He had
other than this.
He had one really good start for the Cubs.
Yeah, I remember that.
I want to say it was against the Rockies. I'm going to look this up.
It's always the Rockies, I guess.
I guess it is, for better or for worse. They're very memorable. Sean Gallagher, last played in 2010. So, yeah, it was 2007.
We're really dating ourselves here now.
Dude, we're getting old, man.
Yeah.
It was give me a second here.
It's great live radio.
Yeah, this is great live radio. So it's not coming up. His good start's not coming up. His longest outing as a Cub was 4.1. Was it against Pittsburgh? No, he was with Pittsburgh. I can't find it. Can't do it. Oh, it doesn't go back that far. That's why.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of videos of this stuff that I don't know where they are, but they're not. They cut off the
It stopped at
MLB.com
2010
video thing. It cuts off at a certain point.
Man, that's disappointing.
I haven't looked in a minute, but I remember there's a lot of Derek Lee on the Cubs that you can't really find good video for because they took it. They just don't update those, non-HD footage and stuff. So
I know that footage looks like it's from 1990.
Yeah, it's horrid. Yeah, you would think it was
horrible.
The 80s. Yeah,
horrible. I was looking at Corey Patterson video 2 weeks ago.
Why?
Just a thought came to me one night. We're talking about center fielders. I'm like, yeah, right. Cody Bellinger could play center field. He had PCA. Remember Corey Patterson? So I went to look at his highlights, and I started to think, how bad were his strikeout issues? And they weren't that bad. He had a 22% K rate, but he only walked 4% of the time. So that's why he used to strike out against those high fastballs a lot. Remember that? But it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
For the era it was, but in today's world, it wasn't that bad.
I think there's a lot of things we could look at, and go back and maybe correct what the narrative was. I think a lot of people have a weird
Ryan Terrio, for example.
No, we're not going to do that. Don't say it again. A lot of people I think don't have the strongest memory of Soriano, who was very good for most of his time as a Cub.
You know why? He did not hit his first home run until May 1st in Pittsburgh. Opposite field shot.
Didn't it take KB a month too?
Took KB a month. Took Dansby a long time as well. It just happens. I was in the school library watching the game when Soriano hit his opposite field home run into those short bleachers in Pittsburgh. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
I can tell you what I'm doing, as you said, based on what the Cubs
Yeah,
did that
I have
day.
no idea unless you can tell me what the Cubs did that day, and then I know exactly. Sure. Oh, I know where I was. I know what I was doing, who I was with. Oh, and that was the game that, Dave Veers came in the 8th inning. Do you think we were getting a Dave Veers mention today? No, you didn't. How about that?
We did not.
That's good trivia for you. He gets that double play to end the doubleheader in 2003 against the Pirates to win the division.
Actually, I forgot about that.
Dave Veers.
That is good trivia.
Yeah.
One of my, and maybe we should end the show here, but one of my favorite memories is, maybe you don't remember this. If you do, good for you. But there was this very long extra inning game. I want to say like 2005, 2006 with rain delays against the D-backs. It was like a 9-hour game. 2 rain delays. They went to like the 15th or 16th inning at Wrigley. It was one of my favorite games. I watched baseball the entire day.
Is this ringing a bell? Not really.
Oh, man. It had been like 2005. So my day that day, I was in Arizona at the time. So 11:20 start time.
Yeah.
Okay. Rain delay starts. I go ice skating. So I'm at the ice skating den, having a good time. Rain delay. They come back. Goes to extra innings. I get to go back home and watch the end of the game when it gets dark outside. It was an entire day event. I loved it.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, it was a good one. It wasn't memorable, but it was just, for me, it was like the perfect day. Nice summer day at the ice den, having some French fries, watching the Cubs game the entire day.
I see an 18-inning game against the Astros in 2006.
No, it may have been earlier. May have been like 2005, 2004. The D-backs still had their like purple uniforms. Yeah, so
I don't remember.
Yeah, during that era.
Oh, all right.
There you go.
I guess that's what we have for you. Listen, I'm telling you, if they have done nothing by next week, how we ended this episode, that's going to be the whole episode. We're just going to start, no prep, no nothing, and we're just going to rip into talking about whatever random Chicago Cubs thought pops into our minds. So that's the threat to Jed Hoyer.
We should do that.
You either make a major league move for a pitcher for Brendan,
or we're talking about Will
or
Ullman
something, or we are talking about Coy Hill, Mark Grudzielanek. Okay,
I would love to talk about Mark Grudzielanek.
Joe Borowski.
Oh yeah, love Joe Borowski. Todd Hundley. You want to keep going?
Oh, man.
Yeah, Todd Hundley. Love Todd Hundley. Great catcher. Jed Hoyer would have loved Todd Hundley. He would have signed Todd Hundley to even a bigger contract than Tucker Barnhart.
If you want to stop us from talking about Paul Bacco, Jed Hoyer, get it together.
No. No Paul Bacco.
Why?
Last out, 2003 NLCS. He was the last out.
I know. You know what actually though, and this is a claim to fame of mine. I can't produce any receipts of this, but okay. I corrected at one point, those Sporkle quizzes?
Yeah.
Where they'll like do the quiz, you name the player, that. I had to email them or submit a whatever for a correction because they had on there who made the last out of the 2003 season for the Cubs, and they said Damian Miller, and I wrote, "Hey guys, you have an error on here," and I'm like, you can look at the box score, but unfortunately, I was at this game, and through the tears, I do remember it being Paul Bacco pretty vividly. So
I cannot believe you went through the effort to correct them. You're sick.
What was
You're
wrong,
sick,
Brendan? Damian Miller doesn't deserve that. Come on.
No. God, that pop up to left field. I can remember it so vividly. So vividly. God.
That's a good, obviously, it's not close, but that's a good, we've ended up in scenarios over the course of our life where the season is riding on Paul Bacco making the last out. Or
don't even bring up that guy's name.
Okay.
In 2018.
All right.
Were you thinking it? Were you thinking it?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. What do you mean?
Don't do that to me. That was a tough year. That was 2018.
What's in people's head, I think sometimes or in movies, it's like the World Baseball Classic from this past year where it's like, it all comes down to Trout and Ohtani. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It comes down to the one team's worst reliever and some guy who's not even supposed to hold a bat. That's how these games end sometimes,
God. Horrible.
Anyway.
I got one last comment, then we can sign off. You know what my happiest moment, honest to God, outside of the winning the World Series, my happiest moment as a Cubs fan is Albert Almora. You ready for this? Albert Almora hitting a home run off Clayton Kershaw in the NLCS in 2017. They go up. Yeah.
Is it
Game 1 NLCS Kershaw
that's our
home run? At Dodge Stadium.
Friend of the I was there. I know.
So was I.
I think that's our friend of the podcast, Ryan Tomier's. He's always described that moment as feeling like, oh shit, they're going to go back to back. Like they're going to win 2 World Series in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was crazy. And that game, I don't know if I'm going to get like arrested for this, but I bought the cheapest ticket at that game. I think I told you the story, right? Ever tell you the story?
I think so.
I might get arrested for saying this, but we're just going to go with it.
Photoshop the ticket?
Yeah, I photoshopped the ticket.
I don't think you can get retroactively arrested for that.
I don't know how it works these days. So I got the ticket, $80 ticket, nosebleeds. I photoshopped my ticket on my phone. I go to one of those ticketing sites. I find a vacant seat, and I just change it. So I sat in like $1,000 seats behind home plate. Yeah.
How about
Albert Almora is right there in front of me, hitting that home run. And in that moment, I'm like, we are the best team of all time.
Yeah, it did feel good. This is way long. We'll keep maybe some of this for next week, Jed. Okay.
Yeah, Jed.
Make a move or else we're talking about the 2005 Chicago Cubs. So that's a direct threat to everyone involved. If it's 2005, nobody likes that.
I've been waiting 8 years for you to
We're punishing ourselves and our listeners.
Hell
It's a content strike.
Let's go
against Jed Hoyer until he makes a move. We are not having a
content.
normal conversation until they spend $1 on
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do.
But immediately, the doubleheader when they won in 2003, I remember being like on another planet of feeling everything. And I mean, even like the knocking out the Cardinals too, because that was like house money. It's like they're going to the NLCS. Like we didn't even think this team, we didn't even know half these guys were going to get called up when this season started. Like,
yeah,
this is about as good as it gets. So possibly like a single moment, like when Javi took John Lackey deep, I have never been more. That was like I'm on another plane of existence from everybody. Like,
the Schwarber home run too. That later in that game, that was just because that was our first series win, like legit, like good feeling since 2003.
Yeah,
took 12 years.
I mean, not really feel like literally it was. You said that.
I know.
Where there was like other ones.
Well, I was thinking about the wild card game the previous week. That's why. But like the first like series win since 2003.
Yeah,
good times.
Right.
I miss those feelings. Although 2017, the NLDS against Nationals, that was a good one. Underrated. If that was a normal year, that game 5 would be remembered so much differently.
Yeah.
Coming back down 4-0. Hendricks gets wrecked in game 5.
Yeah.
Wade Davis, was it 2+ innings? Bryce Harper.
I don't know what
Bryce Harper to strike out on that cutter. He goes, yeah. That was the best.
Yeah. Wade Davis throwing to
great trade.
Some mystery catcher. Like, we'll never know who that was.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
I
hated that trade, by the way, the Wade Davis for Soler trade. But in hindsight, I liked it.
We did an episode about it, but I don't think the audio exists anymore.
I wanted to trade Javi Baez over Jorge Soler to bring this full circle. That was one thing I was wrong about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. That's what we have. We will be back next week, either talking about something that the Major League Chicago Cubs have done for the 2024 season, or as you heard, we are going on a content strike. We are not having this conversation anymore, guys. I promise. I do mean earnestly, especially if you're here at the, what are we at, like the 80-minute mark? Like, we genuinely appreciate everybody, especially those of you tuning in every day, with Cody and Luke and Ryan, and I was in the studio on Thursday. Like, we appreciate it very much. It's obviously out of our control whether the Cubs are making moves and doing stuff, but we of course make the commitment to provide content and have conversations and do these shows. You've heard us do the CHGO reads before, live shows every day, every team. And that's what we're going to do. So we appreciate you guys tuning in and sticking with it and engaging. Like, that's giving us stuff to talk about, and like knowing how to take these conversations, because trust me, we don't want to be having the same conversation about Cody Bellinger day after day, week after week, but we're rooting for a team that hasn't done anything. So I feel like we've covered most of it, and we're ready to talk about something else and do an emergency show if we have to and everything. But seriously, thank you for tuning in, engaging, participating, and still being there for us as an audience and a community, even if the Cubs are not necessarily doing their part in making this an exciting offseason. So we do appreciate that. Brendan and I will be back with you next Friday. As always, subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page. Hit that like button on your way out. We got to give a very hearty Brendan, go blue on the end of this podcast. Listen. I'll finish with my normal call, but the University of Michigan is playing for a national title, and I'm going to try my damnedest to bring it home, Brendan. All right? I have watched them lose. I graduated in 2013. My senior year, they lost to Louisville in the national title. I watched that live in attendance. I went to the national title against Dante DiVincenzo and Villanova, Jalen Brunson. They lost that. I watched it live. I have spent way too much money, traveled way too many miles to watch the University of Michigan lose big games. Desperately. Give me one on Monday. Let me watch them win a national title.
I do want them to win. I like Harbaugh. He's a sports guy. I like him. I don't know.
I'll get you a pair of khakis if they win.
Okay, that'd be great. Appreciate that.
Go blue. If you're rooting for Washington, get out. Get out. No. We'll be back next Friday. Todd Hundley, Todd Walker. Yeah. We could talk about famous Todds in Cubs history. Todd Hollinsworth.
Ooh, I like Todd Hollinsworth.
We're just going to play a game of how many Todds can you name? I don't have any more than that. So I'm sure I'm forgetting one, but that's the three I got. Anyway, we appreciate it. We will be back with you next Friday. Don't forget to tune in. Cody, Luke, Ryan will be back with you on Monday. Of course, the CHGO team is ready. If emergency news breaks, we will jump on live and talk about it. Brendan and I will be back with you next Friday. We appreciate the support. And as always, go Cubs.